What's up, guys? Welcome back to Startup Growth Stories from Product 10X, a startup accelerator for early-stage enterprise SaaS startups with a focus on product-led growth. If you are an entrepreneur with a great idea or a founder with a super early-stage company, you are in the right place. Stick around to get insights from other startup founders and learn from peers.
Welcome everyone to the Product 10X Accelerator podcast. This is your host, Addy. I work with Product 10X as a board member. I help them with business strategy and ecosystem strategy. Today we have with us Sushant Pednekar. He is our board of member as well and a partner at OV Ventures. Sushant, thank you so much. Can you please introduce yourself?
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Adi. I am an attorney by trade, and with Oxygen Ventures, what we do is we provide startups, entrepreneurs, like a one-stop solution, a comprehensive solution to all their engaging initial entrepreneurial needs. So me in my legal capacity, I have partners who work on business development, on capital fundraise. So we kind of like are the go-to guys when startups and entrepreneurs want to scale their operations.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that. And the first question, as always, that jumps up my mind is, what made you choose law? And especially, why word startup?
Well, law was almost by way of process of elimination. In India, after you finish your high school, you basically have like three streams that you can pick, right? There's like what is called pure science, which is physics, chemistry, biology. There's commerce, which is like maths and accounting and algebra. And then there's, the liberal arts. And I was kind of like, I knew what I didn't want to do, which was anything to do with numbers or physics. But I really wanted to get away from those fields. So then, my options of what I could do were limited. And, law was something, I don't have any other lawyer in the family, but it was just something that, I was drawn to and ended up going to law school in India first and then attended law school in the US.
Wow, that's amazing. And the only lawyer in the family. So
far.
Yeah, I'm so glad because, they always say, have a lawyer friend and a police friend. I think we are good with one of those right now. I wanted to know, in Indian education, and you must get this a lot, with studying law in India as undergrad and then studying law in US as grad, how do these two things collide, and changes your perspective? How was that experience?
You know what, Adi? It's surprisingly complementary. The Indian legal system and the American legal system both borrow from the British common law. So their principles of law and equity in both countries, India and the US, are similar. So to that extent, I was actually more fortunate than some of my other international colleagues in law school in the US, who came from completely different legal systems, completely different backgrounds, and they had a tougher time adapting to American jurisprudence. But having said that, obviously there are some challenges. There are some law statute of limitations or the law of succession in terms of wills and trusts. The way things operate in India are slightly different from the way they operate in the US. And even in the US, you have different states having different laws. So you have to at times like unlearn what you learned in India and kind of like learn something afresh. So that can be a little challenging doing that dance back and forth.
Wow, that is a great perspective. I never thought that there would be so much synergies with that. And I think that really is a great point for professionals coming to US, looking forward to the American dream. With a question in mind, since our target audience and our aim is to add value to entrepreneurs and people who are really thinking of starting a new idea and a company behind it, the number one search results you always see is, how do I not make any legal mistakes? So I'm going to try to avoid a couple of mistakes for our fellow entrepreneurs and ask you, what are the top 3 mistakes you see entrepreneurs making these days in the legal context of things?
Well, I mean, it can be mistakes can be made several different ways, but I think broadly, people need to be careful about the persons that they involve in their operations, the corporate structure or the entity that they choose to proceed with, and then further down the line, once your operations are a little successful, how do you go about fundraising? So broadly speaking, we could kind of like compartmentalize the mistakes into these 3 categories. Of course, with people, with having co-founders, everybody knows, it's great to have a handshake deal, but you've got to put things in writing. But that does not end there either, because a lot of times people just find these, draft operating agreement or controlling document forms online and say, you know what, good enough, let's just use that. But, every situation is different, and you're best served probably not hiring a lawyer, full-time, but maybe just referring, running an agreement by a lawyer, just to ensure that what you're looking to accomplish can in fact be done. I mean, just by way of example, I mean, I know, a couple of days ago, I was having this conversation with a group of people interested in setting an entity together, and they were like, "Hey, like, one of the partners was saying, how do I ensure that we are coming together now? We've agreed with 3 of us, person A, person B, and we said, all right, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 each, and we put that in writing. But tomorrow, like, these 2 guys might come together and say, we're going to change this agreement that we had written. We can vote by simple majority, change this agreement and say distributions are not going to be 33% each. They're going to be like person A and person B keeping 40% and person C just remaining with 20%. And they don't even have any say, because the agreement says, hey, like, simple majority, 2 people can come together and outvote the 3rd. So then in that case, it would have, probably served them better if they'd consulted with a lawyer and spoken about these concerns before they've downloaded a form for online. And one of the provisions is to make certain decisions be subject to unanimous vote. So you can't change the agreement just by a simple majority voting. You need everybody, every member, to consent to any kind of amendment to the agreement. So I mean, those are some just simple ways in which I've seen, like, I understand people are excited initially to, get the ball rolling, but then these are things that are best served kind of like at least addressing or talking about in the beginning. And maybe a lawyer will help you think about those things.
Yeah, it reminds me of that Facebook movie scene where, his shares get diluted. And there was a famous case where, you say yes to a particular amount of equity, but you haven't read any fine scripts yet.
Right.
From that standpoint.
And on the flip side, I mean, it can happen the other way too, where, again, in that same example, you have person A, person B, person C, and, persons A and B are concerned that, hey, we have this guy, person C, who wants to have an equal share in this new venture, but we're not sure if they're going to be putting in the work, if they're going to be staying par for the course. So how do we ensure that they're involved? And then, that is, again, something that a lawyer can help you address. And there's a common vesting provision that maybe you're familiar with, where you award ownership interest over time instead of right from the get-go. So you ensure that the people are incentivized to continue performing in order to earn those percentage interests over time.
Wow, that is a very value-packed answer. Thank you for that. Just to switch things around and sort of lead to just one top advice, if you could give an entrepreneur now in the current market, especially with pandemic, looking to start a company, what would be the number 1 advice you would want them to know?
Wow. That's a tough one. And I don't know if I have an answer. And I think this is where we need to take a break because like I
Maybe you
said,
could just lead with hire me, and then you're that information.
no, I don't want to do that. But to this question, I mean, I don't think I have a straightforward answer. I can give a long rambling answer, but that may be not something that you might want.
Sure. Or if we could look at it in a way, a part of your third answer was to hire a legal counsel and to hire an attorney. In early stages, with your experience being not that long or in depth as an entrepreneur, I wanted to sort of ask you, what should an entrepreneur look for in a legal counsel?
Yeah, that's a good question. See, I understand, when you're starting off, you don't have a lot of funds available. You're kind of like a bootstrapped operation, and you don't need to bring on legal counsel full time. There are several different ways in which lawyers work with clients. Some do hourly billing model, like you can retain an attorney and pay them only for the limited amount of time that they work on your matter. Or some lawyers even offer flat fee. So, you say, hey, I just want you to review this agreement, or I want you to prepare this convertible note, whatever. And tell me what your rates for this are. I don't care if you work on it for 2 hours or 10 hours. I'm not going to pay you hourly. So, it's about finding the right fit. Of course, different lawyers have different expertise also, right? So typically what I've seen startups need is a lawyer who has an understanding of, corporate legal needs. So with, incorporating an entity, structuring your operations. Sometimes, depending on what kind of, startup you are, you might need some IP protections. So you need somebody who is well-versed with filings with the USPTO. You may need somebody who can draft up a software license agreement.
Yeah.
Then again, as you scale operations, as you start to gain tractions, maybe you get to a point where you're seeing interest from investors.
Mm-hmm.
And then you would need an attorney who can help you with securities law. Oftentimes people are excited when they see, the prospect of money coming in, but it is a very highly specialized field. Like take, for example, once an entrepreneur, was approached by somebody who said, you know what, I can help you find capital. Mm-hmm. I will make introductions. I have this established network, and you don't have to pay me anything.
Yeah.
You pay me only if we are able to successfully raise money, and I'll just take a commission or a portion of that, whatever. Yeah, success fee, finder's fee, exactly. But not anybody is allowed to do that. You need to be a licensed broker in order to have a success fee arrangement. And that, license is controlled by the SEC, the Security Exchange Commission. So, I mean, as an entrepreneur, you might not know that this is even there is even such a license requirement. And you might just jump on that opportunity, but then later, you don't want to be in a position where you come to regret that, where you find out, oh, now I'm like in potential violation of SEC law because I engaged with this person. So it's the bottom line. I mean, generally is, a stitch in time saves 9, right? Like it's easier to address an issue in the beginning than it is to undo a mess later. So if you can seek legal consultation, and even if you think you don't need it, it's just, at the very least, it'll give you different options in terms of how you can proceed. You might think, hey, I know this is the way I want to do it. I don't need to ask somebody else because I know I've done this before, but maybe that worked for you in that particular instance, but here scenarios are different, situations are different, the law is evolving. There might be a new point of view which you've never considered before, and that is something that a lawyer may be able to identify for you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. That's that really brings in a very fresh perspective to our listeners. I wanted to just lead on by asking you one last question, and this is going to be word association. I'm going to give you two words, and you have to choose one word out of that. Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Twitter or LinkedIn?
LinkedIn.
Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Equity or retainer fee?
Well, depends. When I see promise, equity.
That's a perfect lawyer right there. Sales-led growth or product-led growth?
Product-led growth.
Lovely. And that's what we stand on. Thank you so much for coming, Sushan, and giving me your time. And thank you so much, listeners, for viewing our podcast. See you next week.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, Adi.
You've reached the end of another episode of the Startup Growth Stories from Product 10X. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter or review startup material at product10x.com. Until next time.